We're making a video today about making ice. What do you think about that?
Making a video about ice sounds pretty cool.
All right, how's it going? This summer is quickly dwindling into fall. We did finish up our sorbet series, which we did throughout the summer, which was lovely. But we're not quite done with dealing with ice yet. We have something we want to do. I've been seeing things in my various feeds that kind of interest me, and I wanted to check them out. And as we're entering the holiday season, we want to be a little fancy. Maybe we want to have some interesting ice molds to supplement our parties we're going to have coming up. So we're going to try out a bunch of different molds. We're also going to try some experimentation with a little bit of different types of water, really only filtered and distilled as the two different types. Now, you know, when you see these ads, you usually see these super clear ice cubes, and basically they're made with a special kind of mold that will actually freeze sort of from one end to the other, and it'll push the impurities to like the bottom and leave the rest completely clear. I don't have anything that fancy. We just have some seasonal and interesting molds we're going to look at. If you take a look down here, we have cats, the silicon-based mold. We have skulls. We have tombstones. You see there's a theme here as we're getting into Halloween, right? Now these are just spheres, but when I say just, these are supposed to make some really cool, perfect spheres. And when you close them up and put this cap on them, it actually makes it so there's no little nubbage on the one end. Also, a lot of these come with either little funnels, or they've got built-in funnels into the form itself. Also, look at this. This is a Death Star. This comes with a Millennium Falcon bottle opener. How cool is that, right? And finally, I have this big old hand grenade. If you've ever been to New Orleans, you can buy hand grenades to drink there, and they're pretty potent. So if you ever get the chance to do that, make that happen. So we're gonna seal these silicone molds up. Now there is a top and bottom. If you read the text on them, you can tell what's top and bottom. So on the top, I'm going to put only filtered water, and on the bottom, I'm going to put distilled water. And let's just see if there's a difference. I don't know. We'll find out. All right. Well, let's start with the skulls. Okay. So as you can see, these have little funnels on the top side. They've also got a little hole for venting excess air. Silicone mold. We're going to seal it up. Make sure it's nice and well sealed, and they've got little things here to also press. So we're just going to make sure we press all the things. Yeah, see, it's escaping. That's bad, because what that does is, you know, that means there's going to be like a mold line, and, you know, this is all going to be, you know, I mean, clearly the water's going between. So we're not going to be able to experiment with this. So what we're going to do is, because it's going to fill up all the skulls, what we're going to do is the skulls are going to be filtered and the caps will be distilled. So we'll just know that there's a difference there. So that's a little disappointing that these molds are not able to, you know, really differentiate or individualize each of the things. But once you do get it filled up, it's full. Now, the next question is, how easy is it to move? It's not too bad. All right, so that seemed like a little bit of extra work for 6 little skulls. So next we're going to do the tombstones. This is going to be something we're going to be able to more easily control. As you can see on the back here, it's just the cubes themselves. and then there's just a silicon back plate. So we are going to do the top of this is going to be the filtered, and the bottom will be the distilled. So let's fill these up. Now these look like they're a lot more difficult to move because the silicone is so flimsy. So using a spatula seems to be helpful. Okay, the cats will be distilled. Yeah, the thing is with these kind of molds, you get the full 3D effect. The tombstones, you're just going to get a flat back and a tombstone effect. With these other ones, you're going to get a full 3D character. Now these cats seem to contain the water very well. There we go. I want to make sure I filled it all the way up to the tail. The cat one seemed to fill really well, so let's go ahead and put it in the freezer. All right, well, let's fill up hand grenade. This will be distilled. Yeah, these hand grenades hold quite a bit of volume. So, all right, let's do the Death Stars next. This is different. Look at this. This actually has threads on it where you screw this together. See that? Not much of a screw, but it very distinctly connects. One of the nice things about these with the clear tops is you can see it filling, so you don't overfill it and make too much of a mess. They also come, like I said, with these cool little stoppers that fit right on there and make these nice and solid, very professional looking. No spilling on these. These are really nicely done. Now the thing about these is, unless you have a bunch of these, it's only good for 4 drinks, right? You get one ice sculpture per drink. So with this set, of course, you have 4 balls. You get 4 drinks. Now, if you're having a bunch of people over, I would suggest getting a bunch of sets and pick one shape and make all those. So yeah, there's quite a bit of volume in these. I suspect they would last through several drinks, although it won't be quite as nice and fancy as you go through the night if you have them for several drinks. Now the last thing I wanted to share with you is something I think I may have seen on Shark Tank or something like that. This is actually a mini ice cylinder. Cylindrical mini ice maker. And seems like it's pretty cool. Basically, I did take it out and look at it already. Basically, you have 2 of these. And you have this silicone ice cube former. And you have this insert. And what you do is you fill this cylinder up to about here with water. And then you stick this in and it smushes all the water up into the sides. And then when you take it out, you have all these little ice cubes. So we're going to try that out too. I figured I was on an ice kick. It would be good to try them. So we're going to make 2 of these and just see how we like them. Also, I mean, you saw where the line was. It's not a whole lot of water to make this ice. So, all right, let's go ahead and fill it up. You can see it as I'm pushing it in. You'll see the water go up the sides. I think that's kind of cool. And so we have all these little mini ice cubes being made. All right, there we have it. All the ice things are in, waiting for us for tomorrow when the Bama game starts. We will probably start a little bit before the game, looking at our experimentation because we don't want to miss any of it. But yeah, hopefully it turns out pretty cool, and I guess we'll get to check it out then. In the meantime, I guess we'll see you tomorrow. All right, it's the next day. Let's see what we've got. One of the things we've got are lids coming off, because we all know water expands as it freezes, right? So got a little bit of that going on. One of these, the lids popped up a little bit. But yeah, so we're going to take a look at this stuff and see how it came out mold wise. And then take a look and see how it looks inside a fancy glass. One of the things I do know based on what I've already seen is the ice, of course, did not freeze directionally. So it's all going to be foggy. It's going to have air bubbles, impurities, etc., stuff like that. So we're not going to have the really crystal clear ice that the super fancy drinks generally have. But I think we're going to make a future video where we get some of those directional molds and try them out as well. In the meantime, let's take a look and see how things have turned out. Let's start with the hand grenades. The one on my left hand is the one with the distilled water. This is the one with the filtered water. Let's take a look and see how they turned out. First of all, I'm curious how easy it's going to be to, oh, look at that, that's split. So maybe it's going to be pretty easy to get the molds apart. That's the thing though with ice, of course, it expands and these kind of molds are they're going to crack open. All right, here we go. Okay, looks kind of cool. See how easy it is to get the other half out. Okay, not bad. And we do have the nubbin at the top. Okay, as you see, it's a little cracked. One of the things we need to do, but I mean, look at the shape. The shape's there. One of the things we need to do is we need to, before we put these in liquid, let them rest for a little bit. So this was the distilled water. Let's take a look at the filtered water. Okay, not too bad. Now we do have a little bit of impurities there. There does seem to be a crack running through it, but the shape is generally there. We're gonna let these sit for a couple of minutes, and then we're gonna put them in a glass of water to see what happens. Okay, now this is just room temperature glass water. Now we're not gonna let this first one rest too much. This is the distilled. Let's put that in water, see what happens. I may have a little bit too much water. Ready? Seems okay. And there we have a drink with our first hand grenade. All right, I want to see what a hand grenade looks like in a fancy glass. So let's take a look at that. Hear that little crack? Theoretically, one of the things that happens also with the ice with a lot of impurities is it melts a lot faster than perfectly clear ice. All right, so for the hand grenade molds, I would say the shape came out pretty decent. Of course, it's not directional. They were a little bit hard to get apart. Seems to be doing the job. I guess the taste test is in order. That's good apple juice. Okay, let's take a look at the Death Stars next. Now, as you can see, the mold did open up a little bit. This is the distilled. Okay. We do have a little bit of a mold mark. You see that? Let's put that in the water and see if it cracks. Yeah, so that's why we got to let them sit a little bit. Let's see it in the fancy glass. Oh, this is also the filtered. Again, the mold's a little bit difficult to get off. Maybe if you let them rest a little bit, they would come apart a little bit easier. Yeah, these are very, very difficult to get apart. We're going to let this sit for a minute. All right, next, we're going to look at the cats. Now, these have ice all the way up into the funnels. Okay, so I did hit the funnels against the sink, and it looks like they have kind of broken off. So we have this nice nub here to grab. We can see we did have some overrun of the mold, but This is coming apart very easily. And the ice is coming out very easily as well. That, I believe, is a pretty successful mold. I think that looks really great. Let's drop one in the water, see what happens. No breaking. Got kind of clear. And let's put one in the fancy glass. You ready? Sort of floats on its face. Okay, I think the cat mold is pretty successful. I'm pretty happy with that. All right, let's look at the tombstones next. Now, this is more of a standard ice tray, of course. There's no 3 dimensions to it, but comes apart pretty easily. Of course, you see the impurities in it. Again, it's never going to be clear, but they come out really easy. The silicone is really malleable. Then we have one. Can't really see what's on the surface of it. This one is a spider, it looks like. Let's drop that in the water. Looks like an ice cube. This one says RIP and has a spider web on it. The surface features are indistinct mainly because you can't see through it, so there's no way to really get a good definition of what's on the surface. And of course, cracking. This one says "Here lies," and it's got a skull face in the fancy glass. I want to shine a light through it and see if that helps anything. Does that make anything different? No? Still not coming out. Also, all the details are gone. They've melted off. So I would say the Death Star ice cubes. I'm not going to futz with this anymore. Down, thumbs down on the Death Star. Okay, now we have the skulls. It's coming apart really easily. Now this one also had a lot of overflow as we were pouring it in, but I don't think that's an issue. Okay. My interest in these are how well the 3D looks on them. So it's got some excess on there. I think you can break that off. Yeah, if you break off the excess. They look pretty good. They'd look better if they were clear. And there we have a fancy glass with skulls in it. These just seem like ice cubes. There's nothing extra special about them. I mean, pretty quickly they start to lose their shape. So there you have that. All right, so we're going to stop pointing out distilled versus filtered. They look exactly the same. There's no difference. This is all about the freezing methodology. The difference in the water doesn't matter. Also, there's some techniques that people use, like boiling water and whatever. Well, boiling water does not get the impurities out. It actually boils away good water and leaves more impurities by volume in there. So boiling water doesn't help to make it any clearer. All right, we've got the fancy ones. I'm excited. So we've got the cool nubbage tops. And these start coming apart on their own. Drop that in the water. Also, as you can tell, as we're mucking around with ice, we're getting water everywhere, so it's a bit of a mess. So that looks kind of cool. All right, let's see about getting one of these out and put it in the fancy glass. All right, there you have it in the fancy glass. I have to say, it does look fancy. All right, the last ones we're going to try are these. Now, there's a technique for opening these. You have this big open space. You're supposed to fill it with a little bit of room temperature water. That allows you to actually get it to come free. And so we're going to do that. And you can actually hear it cracking. Can you hear that? And once it releases it, all we have to do is squeeze the silicone and it should pop all those little ice cubes free. Yeah, that came out pretty easily. Now we squish it. Oh, wow. That's actually really satisfying. Well, that seems like an awful lot of work for one glass full of ice. It's novel, it's unique, it's interesting, it's fun. The kids might like messing with it, whatever. I don't know that it's very practical. Okay, so that is all of the ice molds been through. Did not see any difference between distilled or filtered water, of course, because it's the freezing uh, style rather than the type of water. Um, some of these molds, specifically the Death Star molds, were a bit disappointing. Um, and I think the tombstones, you couldn't really see the definition of what was on there. Again, clear molds may have been, or clear ice may have been different. It just didn't seem all that great. The skulls I thought came out pretty good. The spheres themselves, I think, are super cool, and they do look really good in the fancy glasses. So I think I did save one for later because I'm going to have another glass of apple juice while I watch the Alabama game, and I think we'll enjoy the ice that way. All right, that kind of wraps things up as far as testing ice molds. So, you know, I mean, some of these were great, some of them were not so great. Uh, Understanding the challenges of some of them is important, and understanding the fact that you're not going to get clear ice from these is important as well. Now, these ice molds are fairly inexpensive, around between $10 and $20, really, for all of them. I am going to buy some directional ones. They're pretty expensive in general, but we're going to try them and test them out because I think it's important to cover the whole spectrum of this kind of stuff. So look for that coming up in the future. In the meantime, we're going to get ready for some football and see some Crimson Tide against FSU here in a little bit. All right, everybody. As always, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the new subs. I finally hit 2,000, so I'll stop shilling for subs now. I appreciate you all, and roll Tide.